Thank you for joining us wherever you are. This podcast episode is brought to you by the Old Ways Actual Play Team. This actual play uses the 7th edition Call of Cthulhu tabletop role-playing game rules by Chaosium. This actual play is performed by adults and in an adult setting. While we try very hard to stick to language for all ages, listeners should know that this podcast may include mature themes. All content, including names, places, events, companies, and etc., that may bear resemblance to entities living or dead, is strictly coincidental. My name is Michael Diamond, and for tonight's game, I will be your keeper. Thank you for joining us again, another episode of the Old Ways Podcast. I'm your keeper Michael, and we return to Horror on the Orient Express, where our investigation continues in Milan. So, before we get started on this episode, I think it is prescient to mention that we have a Patreon and that you can support us at the Old Ways Podcast over on Patreon. We would love to see you join us, especially now that the fun new things in our Patreon have expanded. We have a third campaign coming soon, which we now know is going to be our Vampire the Masquerade game. We are super excited for it. And so we hope you'll stick around and listen to not only our Call of Cthulhu stuff, but then the coming of the Children of Cain. For now, though, we're going to do introductions, and so to my right.
Hello, I'm Mike, and I'm playing James Robert Fraser. And in the company of Mr. Simon Griffith, I'm off to the police station.
I can't imagine that'll end well. And to Mr. Fraser's right.
Hi, I'm Rena. I play Lady Elisabeth Fitzroy, and I'm having a go at being the optimistic one in this group. Not sure I like it very much, but we'll see how it goes.
Yes, I think that it's an interesting positional change for you, Lady Elisabeth. It's not really your normal role, but you're willing to play the part if necessary. Someone has to chin up and keep going.
Keep calm and carry on.
Yes. At the end of the table.
Hi, this is Giles, and I'm playing Simon Griffith. And I think the only reason why that Lady E is positive is because it's fueled by cocaine.
Yes, she has been properly medicating herself for a bit of muscle or bone discomfort, but there's really nothing wrong with a little cocaine between her and her physician. Last but most certainly not least.
Hi, I'm Miranda, and I play Maggie Bellinger, who is very concerned about one Richard Courtenay. He's always been kind of a dusty fellow, but I didn't think it would ever come to this.
I didn't either. It's clear he's left Milan to star in the next Blue Man Group audition. So, as we raise the curtain tonight, Mr. Fraser and Simon have returned to the hotel in Milan, where they are stepping through into the eatery and then us up to the rooms to return to the group and give a report, I would suppose, of what they've found already about Miss Cavallaro, and then also some of the other goings on here in Milan. Gentlemen, you enter that hallway upstairs, 3rd floor, and you can see quite clearly that there's something on the floor. Looks like, what is that? Some sort of blue dust is on the floor? You can see it's collected around Professor Courtenay's door. And I suppose then, to set our scene properly, Miss Bellinger, what would you be doing with the dust?
Well, if I remember correctly, we left the room and shut it and decided we should not go in there. Correct? And then we, had a rest, caught our breath. Our footprints are probably all over in that dust.
Oh, yes.
And we're maybe back in Lady Elizabeth's room. I imagine I haven't changed. There's still bits of dust on me everywhere, maybe smeared on my face in a couple of spots.
Yeah, you can hear just beyond your door footsteps in the hallway, close to your doorway.
Does it sound like the heavy footsteps of one Mr. Simon Griffith?
It does. It does.
I've come to know them, the steps of one Mr. Fraser and Mr. Griffith. Lady Elisabeth, I believe the gentlemen are back.
Ah, excellent. We could use some muscle.
We can't let them go in that room. Remember, Paul said it would be best if no one goes in there.
Well, I don't think they're going to be breaking down the professor's door.
Speaking of that, gentlemen,
I think under normal circumstances, Mr. Fraser would be quite put out by the mess in the hallway and would be instantly down to call on housekeeping to tidy it up. But bearing in mind that this is Professor Courtenay's room, he's a little more concerned. Mr. Griffith, do you see that? Would you mind checking on Mr. Courtenay to make sure he's all right? I'll see if Lady Elisabeth is well.
Of course I will. It's not like I'm going to have to break down the door or anything. I just need to get the money out from underneath his bed.
Absolutely. I can't see any necessity to break down the door.
So, Simon, you open the door, and something is very wrong in here. There's a large pile, somewhat of a collection of this blue powder. It has the consistency of a talcum or a baby powder, and it's piled up along the bed. It looks like at one point it held a form and has fallen, almost as if a souffle has fallen there on the bed. And there's powder just in a large amount of it. You would say several pounds of it have been not scattered, but collected in certain areas, and it trails near towards the entrance as well. And then you can see that there are footprints in it, or I should say shoe prints in it. And then it looks like also it at one point went towards a corner of the room too. But you do not find the professor in here.
It's okay. He's probably out. I look under the bed.
Yeah. I mean, his trunk is under there. And one of his suitcases is under there.
Pop the suitcase that I know the money's in since I've handled it before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, it looks like it's all there. I mean, you've got to kind of scoot around some of the dust. Obviously, like if you pull the suitcase out, you will move a bit of the dust with it. It's impossible unless you lift the bed.
No, I'm not worried. It's just dust. I've dealt with coal dust before.
Sure.
This is just blue dust, so I'm covering my mouth because I don't want to inhale it.
You don't want a mouthful of the professor?
Well, I don't know. It's the professor. I mean, as far as I know, it's still don't want to breathe it.
I mean,
some of us are not intaking powder at this time.
Right. Some. We'll get the rest of you. Don't worry. You pull out the suitcase and you open it up and you see the very prepared stacks of money.
I'm going to close it first, sweep all the blue dust off of it, carry it out of the room, and join up with Mr. Fraser.
So I'll go and knock on Lady Elisabeth's door.
Okay. Yeah, you knock on her door.
Yes.
Your ladyship, it's Mr. Fraser here. May I come in?
Ah, yes, Mr. Fraser. Do enter. And bring Mr. Griffith with you, if he's around.
And whatever you do, don't go in Richard's room.
Why ever not? Mr. Griffith is there attending to him as we speak.
No.
I'll go into the room. Ah, Miss Bellinger.
Maggie rushes past Mr. Fraser to get Simon out of that room.
What's the to-do?
There's been some sort of an incident.
Is Mr. Courtenay all right?
We don't know. He wasn't in his room, but there was a large quantity of dust, and apparently screaming.
Screaming? Who was doing the screaming?
According to Miss Bellinger, it was the dust.
The dust?
Screaming in the professor's voice, yes. I think perhaps she's a little over-emotional and overexcited.
Lord.
Perhaps overworked as well. Obviously, it can't have been that, but there was definitely screaming. And a lot of dust.
Well, I suppose we'd better go and see what's happening. I'm quite at a loss, your ladyship. Screaming? Well, I mean, if you heard screaming, where was it coming from?
I think perhaps it was coming from outside, or even elsewhere in the building, but because she was so flustered and stressed and worried for the professor, she just thought it was coming from the pile of dust in the room, since he was nowhere to be found.
Ah, yes, but indeed, perhaps it was somebody on the street, or perhaps the shrill cry of a nearby bird, or something.
Yes, perhaps. But either way, we need to keep everyone out of the professor's room. Paul is doing some analysis of the dust or whatever it was we found in there. But in the meantime, we have no idea where the professor is.
And the last time you saw him, he was in his room, yes?
Well, he was going to his room. We saw him before we left for the library.
It appears we have 2 missing persons to investigate.
Yes, indeed it does. The hills are alive with the sounds of missing persons.
Or, more accurately, very, very quiet with the sounds of missing persons who aren't there.
Well, not if Miss Bellinger is to be believed.
She's not missing as well, is she? Oh, no, of course not. I just saw her a moment ago.
You just saw her, Mr. Fraser.
Oh, this has been quite a day, Your Ladyship, quite a day.
Well, perhaps you ought to see Paul for a pick-me-up.
I'm quite all right in that respect, Your Ladyship. A good strong cup of tea will see me right.
Well, perhaps before we attend to that need, we should retrieve Miss Bellinger before she does some harm to Mr. Griffith.
Yes, indeed, yes.
Speaking of, Maggie, it's fairly clear that Simon is likely in that room, and you're propelled by your very need to make sure that no one goes in that room.
It disturbs this dust, because a part of me still thinks that this is Richard. Simon, get out of there! What are you doing? Don't disturb it! No, we have to leave as much of the dust in here as we can. You have to get out of there!
He has it like all over his hands. It's all over one of the cases, and he's kind of like sweeping it off the Richard's case, and it's all over the place now.
Put it back. But the dust could be Richard. We don't know yet. He's missing, and I came back, and all there was this dust, and it was in his shape, and it was standing up, and it fell apart, and it screamed in Richard's voice. And you're getting him everywhere.
I'm looking at the blue dust.
It doesn't really look... Yeah, I mean, he's like grating it between his fingers, and it does cake a little bit.
Paul took some of it to do an analysis, but just a very little bit, so I'm sure that it was fine, but we have to leave the rest of it as much as we can here.
Okay, ma'am. I stand in the doorway, I set the suitcase outside, I take off my coat covered in dust and my gloves, toss them back in the room so the dust stays in the room, and I walk over to my room with the suitcase. I realize there's some dust on it.
Yeah, Maggie, I'd like you to make me a power roll.
Okay.
And for your part, Simon, this is very similar in texture to coal dust. It's got a lot of the same sort of consistencies.
It's got a carbon, slimy feel to it.
Absolutely.
14 under 75.
Yeah, you hold it together really well, but it is distressing to see what you think could be any portion of what might be Richard be ground between the thumb and forefinger of Mr. Griffith.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That bothered me before having to do a power roll.
I put the suitcase under my bed with the other, with my trunk.
Mm-hmm.
And I take out 150 sterling.
Okay.
And then I come back in and I go back to Miss Maggie in the hallway then. Miss Maggie, we need to sit down and talk, and I do apologize, but there are pressing matters.
Yes, but can we sit down in just a different room? That's fine. We're going to leave this one shut, and Paul's going to do his analysis, and we're going to figure out what happened to Richard, and we're going to get him back. Lady Elisabeth said that he's just somewhere else and that it's not here, but I don't fully believe that, but I told her that I would have faith in that. But
Miss Maggie, I was watching out for the professor. We will get him back. We have one other missing person we have to find too, and we actually have a lead on that one. So let's sit down and talk with the others and come up with a plan. We will get the professor.
Well, if there's one thing that I do have faith in, it's your diligence in protecting Richard. So, yes, let's sit down and talk.
I think Fraser's just kind of come out of his room to look for the two of you, so we'll probably end up meeting in the hallway.
Fraser.
Hi.
We need to have a sit down with all of us. Where is it safe?
I suppose it's as safe in any of our rooms as any other.
Except for the professors. I think we should get Paul, too.
If you think so, yes. Well, I'll go and get him, and we can meet up.
We could just all go to Paul's room.
Aye. Although perhaps I should go there first, just to pre-warn him that there's going to be an inundation of guests arriving.
You warn Paul that slowly he will be mobbed by people.
Basically, yes.
That's fair. Yeah, you knock on Paul's door. He steps over and opens the door. Oh, yes, sir.
Mr. Maverhaven, good to see you. I wonder, would it be acceptable to you if all of us met momentarily here in your room? There's a couple of matters we'd like to discuss.
I suppose I'm doing some chemical tests right now, but nothing that should be too dangerous for anybody.
On this blue dust substance that you found.
Yes, it's much more of a thick powder, but more on that later. But yes, please. I'm happy to entertain you with the space I have.
Very well. I'll get the others.
Of course.
I turn and see all the others standing 6 feet away. It's safe. Come away in.
So you all kind of crowd into Paul's room. There's very similar furniture, right? So there's a single chair. There's a bed, which has not been slept in yet because you haven't had a night here yet. And Paul's suitcase is at the end of it. He has a table which he has set near the window, not in its normal position. And then on this circular table, there are several apparatuses. He has his medical bag out, and there is like a couple of beakers, and there's different solutions that he has sitting on the table. And it looks like one of the solutions has a bit of this dust in it. He turns to you all.
Lady Elisabeth, you should take the
How
chair,
brazen.
and then Maggie will just walk over and sit on Paul's bed.
Yes, I'll take the chair.
Mr. Fraser will stand.
I'm shocked.
I'm going to lean against the door so it can't open.
I'm also shocked. So, you have a question, maybe, or is everything okay?
Well, I suppose first and foremost, what have you made of this blue powder substance?
It's like coal. It's a lot like it, but it doesn't adhere to some of the same sort of properties. It doesn't do what I thought it would do. And it does seem to stick together quite a bit if you add just the slightest bit of moisture to it. And so he takes a bit of it, and you can see him rim just the outside of his fingertip with a bit of what you think is water. And then he takes just a bit of the dust that he has available to him, and he seems to begin to make this almost gum-like texture to it. And you see his fingers and thumb separate, and there's a thick line of this blue solution between them.
I agree with you, Paul. It's got the same consistency as coal dust, which would suggest it's potentially carbon-based.
Well, I think we kind of all are in a way, if I read my science books correctly.
Correct, but what I'm saying is this is probably formerly organic material.
Which doesn't bode well for our friend Professor Courtenay.
What do you mean by that?
Well, if the blue dust and the amount that I'm seeing over there is to be believed, at least from what Miss Bellinger said, there was an awful lot of it, Mr. Fraser. An awful lot of carbon.
Are you skirting around what I suspect you are?
Well, I would hate to put a thumb or finger on anything specific, just in case there is some potential method that the professor may use to have gotten himself into or out of a situation. We know this is true, though. We know he is not in the room. And from what Miss Bellinger found, the device isn't either.
What of his clothing and such?
Gone. At least whatever he was wearing.
I'm not going to count the professor out, because here we are, we're looking at this. This is probably carbon-based, as we said. But his device, his belt buckle, the eyelets on his shoes, etc. will not.
Have you ever seen someone subject to a large amount of electrical current?
Electrical, no. Fire and other some energies, yes.
Everything I'm seeing here, as far as the powder and the solutions and some of the carbon that it's left over, makes me feel like there was a massive surge of electrical energy in the room. You can even see on the floor in there, if you look under some of the powder, there's a burn mark. Have you ever seen electricity and burn marks on wood?
Well, as a matter of fact, we have, yes.
On the ferry. But again, on that same notice, electrical, high energy conducting, it might break glass, but or melt it, but it's not going to turn it to a carbon-based thing.
No.
Same with his metal. The metal would melt, but it would not turn to powder.
If the heat content was high enough to melt the metal, it would have set the room on fire.
Exactly. So I'm thinking we are dealing with another strange thing here.
Paul shivers.
And surely somebody would have heard something as well. I mean, you can't have that amount of energy expended without somebody hearing something. Surely there must be some sort of cacophony involved.
Yes, I would think so. I was 3 doors down from him, and all I heard was the streets of Milan and some dog barking.
No, something else has happened here. I'm at a complete loss to comprehend what it is, but...
We are going to have to find him.
Where do we even start, though?
Jim, focus. We came back here because we needed to get some grease, which I now have. I had to go into the professor's room for it, but we believe we know how to find the missing Miss Cavallaro.
By grease, of course, Mr. Griffith means money.
That's a foul term, Lady Elisabeth.
Signorina Cavallaro's driver was supposed to meet her at the station. However, he was a little late, and apparently she and her 2 companions went off with somebody else. When he did arrive, the driver made something of a scene and was carted off by the Blackshirts. We believe he's being held in the local police station. We're going to go and see if a little friendly persuasion and, as Mr. Griffith rightly says, a little palm greasing will allow us to interview the man at the very least, possibly even effect his release.
I mean, I would normally rely on Miss Lady E's skills and her stature in society, but with the changes that have happened in Italy and the lovely people in black shirts in power, I don't think her stature would not count as much anymore.
Yes, I hardly think it would be helpful in this sort of situation.
What worries me even more, I have to say, is the young lady and her 2 friends were taken away in an Alfa Romeo motor vehicle. Now, these vehicles are fairly pricey and would most likely be driven by somebody with some considerable amount of money, if not power and influence. And there's a wee nagging thought in the back of my head that perhaps somebody, if not the Duke himself, but perhaps somebody of that like, may well have intervened in this situation. I can't think why they would have, or what connection they would have with Miss Cavallaro, unless it was in some way connected with us. But, I am worried about her. I am indeed, and I would like to find out what's happened to her as soon as I possibly can.
Jim, I wouldn't say it's necessarily us, because it could be that this is some wealthy, rich, petty noble who merely desires to keep Lady Cavallaro for himself. That's entirely a possibility, too.
It seemed to be somebody that she knew at any rate. She did not, from what I understand, express any concern about getting into his car and driving off with him, so there was a certain amount of trust there.
Maggie, you're starting to smell something in the room. It smells a little like a wet animal.
Paul, do you have a animal in here?
Oh, no, but I think I know what you're smelling.
What?
He goes over to the university level science kit that he keeps with him and gets out one of the bottles and brings it over to you. It doesn't smell any better the closer he brings it.
No, you don't have to show me so closely. You can keep it over there.
No, this is important though.
Okay.
It's important. He kind of taps the interior and you see some of the dust, this blue dust that's in it, is floating around inside of it. You see it begin making concentric circles. It starts almost forming a pattern as it's in this liquid that he has.
That is very strange, but what does it mean, Paul?
Oh, well, it means that whatever this and liquid, he kind of taps it. Well, the liquid here is, well, I don't really like to use it unless it's necessary, but of course, it's ether.
Yes.
It's a testing agent I'm using.
Okay.
It's a solvent, and if you're not careful with it, it can make you a little lightheaded. The smell only came
when you put Richard in it.
When I put this, we do not know that for certain, Miss Ballinger. So please, let's just be careful with our jumping to any sort of conclusions.
Okay, so you put the dust in the ether and
ether, which is normally either pleasant or odorless, now carries a very strong reactive odor.
Okay.
It's a test, much like any other scientific test I would do.
Yes, but what does it mean?
It means that the dust makes something that is not normally such a harsh smell terrible. That's it. That's all it means.
Okay, but how is that going to help us find Richard if that's not Richard?
Yes. Miss Ballinger, he goes and sets the small vial down. I am not saying it is going to be helpful, but it is another test that we must do to figure out that answer to the question you want, which is, where is the professor, right?
Yes, but if you don't know what answer it provides or the purpose of the test, then I don't understand.
The purpose of the test is to see what the powder reacts to. That's the entire purpose of gathering the powder, was to test it, yes?
Well, yes, but with a means to finding Richard if he's not the powder.
I think what Miss Ballinger is trying to say, if you'll forgive me, is, well, you have a reaction from this blue powder substance with ether, and it makes a smell. So what conclusions can you reach from observing these results?
So I don't believe, given the reaction, I don't believe that the powder is Richard at all.
Because if you put Richard in ether, he doesn't smell bad.
Right. Well, I wouldn't know, but I wouldn't know for certain, of course, but having never prescribed ether to the professor nor dipped him in it, I wouldn't be able to completely tell you yes or no. Although I do say that the smell is awful mammalian. There's a definite
yes, it smells like a wet dog. Yes,
to it.
And I've smelled the professor a number of times, and that is not what he smells like.
Paul stops and looks around, then turns to Simon and says, "You'd mentioned that this thing might be something a little different. Miss maybe, or maybe it was Lady Elisabeth who said that this could be another one of the strange occurrences. This is fairly strange, yes?"
Oh, that was me, yeah.
Yes, I would say it's quite strange. That's a bit of an understatement.
You're a fairly well-read and educated woman. Have you come across anything like this in any of the books you've read?
Well, nothing springs to mind at the moment, but I do have some texts with me. I could do some reading, some research, since I'm not likely to be much help at the police station or anywhere else. So, I could do some research into this, yes.
Very well. Then I'll continue my work here. I guess if you need anything, if you need any help. I'm not as learned in such subjects as you are, but I'm here and happy to serve as a sounding board.
Yes, well, I do know where to find you.
Indeed.
I'm already calculating in my head where I want to start, which books I want to start with, and just how much tea and how many biscuits I'm going to need to get through the rest of this evening.
I guess what I would ask you, the player, would be is which book are you going to use as reference material? Because obviously making Cthulhu Mythos rolls, which is what this will likely be, is potentially aided by a book you may have in your inventory.
Yes, in my little bag of tomes.
Traveling library.
If I look through my list of things, with me looking at my pile of books as I go in to do some research, what book do I think, based on the reading I've done before, or based on titles, would be the most useful?
Why don't you give us a short review of the books that you have? You have a German one.
Yes, that I can't read because I don't speak German. And then there was the book, the title I don't remember, with the strange drawings, the very lewd drawings in it that I picked up in Paris.
Oh, well, that's not so much a
Yes.
tome. It's a small leaflet of pornography and some mythos lore, but you could totally use it if you wanted to.
I don't.
I mean, it might not get you the answer you want, but you could look at some scantily clad, strange women.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be super helpful. No, I swear I typed these into my Roll20 character sheet when I got them, and they did not save, because the spot is now empty. I wrote them in.
You could attempt to look for a German speaker.
Yeah, I could. Is that very likely in Italy?
I mean, I wouldn't imagine it's impossible to find somebody who speaks German.
Paul, do you speak German?
I'll tell you what. Why don't you roll luck, and we'll see if Paul speaks German.
We have said before that we should ask Paul if he speaks German. I don't think we ever did.
No, because you've already gotten that book, and I don't think we did that part. So yeah, give me a luck roll, Elizabeth.
Okay.
We'll see if you get a German-speaking.
Failed it by 5.
Okay. Well, you can't spend luck on luck rolls.
Nope. Unfortunately.
Paul says, I mean, I picked a few words up during the war and all, but I mean, other than that, not really.
Very well. I'll go speak to someone at the front desk, I suppose, see if they have anyone who could assist me, or at least a German dictionary.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'll continue my tests here, and I guess wait for you all to get back from the police station.
Miss Bellinger?
Yes, Lady Elizabeth.
Would you prefer to stay here and help me with my research? Would you like to go with the gentleman? Do you need a nap, perchance?
I believe I'll stay here with you.
Very well. I'll have some tea sent up. You have had quite a terrible shock. Perhaps you should take some rest.
Yes, I am getting quite tired. The rush of adrenaline, possibly from earlier. Just I was so worried about Richard. Perhaps I can rest a little bit more.
It wouldn't be a bad idea, seeing as you don't speak German. I'm gonna go down to the front desk to ask about a German dictionary or someone who speaks German in the vicinity.
Okay.
Maggie will go to Lady Elizabeth's room to wait for her. And she does not want to be alone.
I mean, it's locked, so you'll have to wait outside.
That's fine. I'll wait outside.
Like a puppy.
She waits outside. I mean, you could wait with Paul, but, he's busy.
No, Paul has been doing things that Maggie does not understand in the slightest. And she does not want him to try to explain it to her again.
I'm sure the hotel has a lounge bar that does cocktails and the like.
Oh, absolutely. What self-respecting bar wouldn't? That's how you keep the visitors in. So, Mr. Fraser and Simon, you guys head out with having acquired the grease money. You head out from the hotel. I guess before we deal with Lady Elisabeth at the front desk, are the two of you taking anything I need to be aware of before you arrive at the police station?
I am actually divesting myself of my knife and my pistol. Because I don't want to be searched by the cops and be found with weapons.
That is fair.
That's quite a good idea, actually. I think if you suggest it to Mr. Fraser, he'll do the same thing.
I am still carrying my roll of banjo wire in my pocket.
Okay, in case you need to garrote anybody. Wonderful.
Well, you never know.
No, well, that's true. So the two of you head out. Lady Elisabeth, you watch them step out the front door and then off towards the police station in the evening. You inquire at the front desk, and the front desk tells you that they do have a member of staff here that speaks German if you require their services.
Ah, most excellent. If you'd be so kind as to point them in my direction.
We'll send them up.
Much obliged.
A few minutes later, you and Maggie are sitting in your room with aforementioned tea and lights and whatnot, and a young girl knocks on your door.
Yes.
I was told that you needed a German speaker. He kind of looks inside.
Ah, yes. I have this book, you see, that was given to me and I can't read it. I was wondering if you could tell me the title and then perhaps if you had a dictionary or something so I could try to read it.
I apologize, madam. I do not have a dictionary, but I am fluent enough in German. She steps in. I'm happy to help in any regard that I can. My name is Emma.
Oh, it's a pleasure to meet you. I am Lady Elisabeth.
Oh.
Perhaps you could tell me the title, and I'll show her the book. And then, is there any kind of table of contents or anything in the front?
It doesn't look like there's a table of contents in the front of this, no. But she places the book on the table, right? She doesn't hold it in her hand. And she very carefully opens the book. It doesn't look like it's terribly too old. It looks like no more than maybe 100 years. And so the binding is pretty still held fast together. She says, just on the interior page, you see a really big word. It doesn't make any sense to you. And she touches her hand just lightly over the pages. And it says, Nameless Cults. And she looks up at you.
That's a strange name. Nameless Cults.
It's definitely strange. She flips the first page. You see a ton of German text, obviously, and she reads down the first page a bit. And here it's talking about the various secret societies and secret groups that hold on to strange and otherwise unknown knowledge.
Fascinating.
She turns a page. Oh my. You see an absolutely horrific engraving on the inside of this. Gnarled tentacles and teeth that are splaying around the edges. And in the center of it, there is a man that's been cut in two. And the detail at which that they give his interior organs and skeletal structure is fascinating. And this young Emma is going to roll sanity now.
Oh, poor Emma.
As she's encountered the first grave image inside Nameless Cults. And she's got a 2.
Oh, so she's fine.
She It grasps onto the book. She begins to perspirate. Just tiny little dots on her forehead. And she flips another page. It's quite an interesting book to come across. Where did you get this?
Well, it was a gift.
It seems that you found something they're calling this a black book. Here, right here. There's many will search for it, it says. Her eyes narrow as she continues to look down at the book. Is there something specific you needed from it?
Yes, I was rather interested in the idea of transforming a body into dust. I read about something.
She flips another page and another, and you continue to see these gross and debilitating engravings come up in this book. And they do not at all hold back. And she skips over them as if it is a simple elementary textbook. She skips over the tentacles. She skips over the beings that have frothing mouths aplenty. She seems to have no issue searching through the book. For those of you who are looking on, even the pages as she flips them and you see them just momentarily, they're very shocking. Very. Beings of all manner and sizes and shapes. And I'm going to give her a hard intelligence roll. All right. She flips through the pages for probably a good 15 minutes. She begins to bleed from the nose. She continues to go. She seems a bit fastened to the table, at least with one hand. You can tell that the musculature in her right hand has flexed to the point where it's pushed all the blood out of her knuckles. They are white, as is her face at this point. The blood that drips down from her nose does not land on the book or its binding. It pools there at her feet.
Sorry, Michael, can I just clarify exactly who is there at the time? Is it just Lady Elisabeth and this girl Emma?
And me, right?
Yeah, it's the two of them seeing this girl read this book. For the two of you who are in this room, why don't you both make spot hidden rolls?
See if I can actually pass something today.
That
might be helpful.
is not a pass for me. It was a 68.
Okay.
Oh, I failed.
I see that. Okay. You could push the roll or spend luck, up to you.
I'll push the roll.
Of course you will.
Why not?
Right.
What's the worst that could happen?
Maggie's a little too drained to push the roll at this point.
So I'm gonna get a little bit closer, like lean over her shoulder in a way that's perhaps not quite socially appropriate. But I'm just engrossed in the idea of this book.
Mm-hmm.
Watch me fumble this. Ooh, success.
Ooh.
53 under 59.
Okay. So you see that this book is having an obvious effect on her, but moreover, the room itself has darkened quite a bit. It's been kept off by a lamp that you've put on just because you knew that you were going to have to do some reading. But as you look about the room just for a moment, it's as if everything else light-wise has dimmed noticeably. It's almost as if this lamp in the room is now the only safety you have.
It's not uncomfortable at all.
Here it is. Here it is. You hear her voice, excited and desperate.
What did you find?
There's a passage here. Her fingers tremble over the text. It speaks of beings from another time and place that find their way into our world. They transport themselves along the edges and the cracks of our world. And they hunt us when we read and when we look for things that we should not find. When she turns to you and says that, you being so socially, strangely close to her, her eyes have gone completely opaque.
Emma, are you there? Wake up, child.
She doesn't respond. She grabs for you.
I'm gonna pull back, or try to.
Okay. That would be either a roll to dodge or to fight back on your choice.
Well, I'm not very good at either of those.
And she's at advantage.
Mm-hmm.
Because she's surprising you.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. Oh, I succeeded on my dodge. Barely. 26 under 27.
You leap back just enough to get out of the way of her grabbing at you. And it's only with the one hand that she grabs at you with, because the right one is still desperately attached to the table, and the table is now shaking with her hand in it. Her lower jaw now is covered with the blood from her nose. And Maggie, this is unmistakable. Even if you're tired and exhausted, the hour or so that has passed in this time of reading has become quite something different.
I imagine that when she reaches for Lady Elisabeth, that wherever Maggie was sitting to rest, she would jump up and put her arm out as well to help protect Lady Elisabeth from this person.
Okay. Go to interdict and at least get in the way, and that's easy enough to do. The young girl, Emma, doesn't so much swipe at you, but she seems to open her mouth wide as if to say something, and nothing comes out. In fact, it doesn't even look like she has a tongue anymore. There's just a blank, dark hole where her tongue used to be. And now you roll sanity.
I'm so glad I decided to stay and not go to the police station. I rolled a 7.
Nice.
Maggie is a picture of perfect sanity.
She's like, hey, listen, I just watched the professor become a pile of dust. This, whatever.
Sanity roll time. I failed very badly.
Oh, you did. You've rolled a 95.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm. It's not a fumble.
It is not a fumble.
Barely.
I do take 2 points of sanity from you, though.
Okay.
This poor child, something terrible has happened to her, and you're fairly certain it might be because she's read a book that she shouldn't.
That you gave her as well. Just throw a little salt on that wound.
I mean, if there's anyone to blame, it's you.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that's how you'll potentially feel it. Perhaps the pang of guilt on your soul from having potentially damned yet another person.
Maggie would probably be asking Lady Elisabeth at this point, what do we do? How do we get her back? This is your book. You know these things. You know how to fix her, right?
I don't fix things. I just read them. Go get Paul. Get Paul.
Where is she in relation to us and the door?
That is a wonderful question. The table is somewhat circular. It's small, right? But there's a chair for someone to eat breakfast if they needed to do or take tea in their room. There's a bed, and then there's, the small balcony and whatnot. Very, very small, but available. And so she's sort of in the center of the room. So you could skirt your way around her, but it's possible she could reach out and try to just grab you as you went.
Yeah. I do want to do that, though, to try to get out.
Okay.
So I'll try to move around the room to try to get kind of around her and out, and just hope her focus stays on Lady Elisabeth.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'm going to ask you to make a dex roll to get around her.
Okay.
And if you fail, then you'll be within striking distance.
Luckily, I'm fairly good at dex.
You are.
23 under 85.
Yeah, you are way too slippery for her.
Mm-hmm.
And so when she does reach a hand out, you simply just twirl out of the way and head towards the door and know that for whatever reason, she's staying clamped to this desk with her right hand. And so you can easily get out and around her.
Yeah, I'll bolt for Paul's room.
You bolt for Paul's room. It's out in the hallway and then down a bit to the right, but you're fairly fast on your feet, and so getting there is not an issue.
Yep. I don't even knock. I just walk
Bang.
in.
Ah!
Paul, hurry.
What?
Lady Elizabeth,
What?
we need you in the other
What?
room. There's a girl in there. She's in distress. Hurry, you have to come quick.
Okay. He grabs his doctor bag. You see him pile in like his medical supplies and just like comes in turns. So in the room, Lady Elizabeth, this girl who's slowly seemingly transforming into something else, she continues to keep her mouth open, and after she swipes at Maggie, she turns back to you almost like she's got you cornered, even though physically, technically she doesn't. She keeps her eyes on you, and her mouth and jaw continue to open. They distend.
Who are you? Or what, I suppose?
She begins a very strange intonation, almost as if she's saying something, but the voice is far deeper than you heard her speak earlier. And as she does so, something begins to crack like along her jawline. You hear bones start cracking like in her body.
Very well. I see we're not going to have a productive conversation at this moment. Is she standing between me and the book?
Yeah, because she still has her hand on it.
I don't want to leave my book, damn it. But I will just back away towards the door.
Mm-hmm.
Because obviously whatever this is isn't interested in talking. So I'm just going to back away towards the door and hope that whatever it is will disappear and let me take my book later. But keeping an eye on it, her, them, whatever, as I back away towards the door.
Okay.
Now,
so
sorry, but if I was with Lady Elizabeth and I had to go around her
You
to get
did?
to the door.
So will Lady Elizabeth, you bet.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way she will have to come all the way around
Mm-hmm.
and use Dex to
Right.
get out of the room.
Oh, my dex isn't very good.
Yes.
Oh, but it's a success. 28 under 55.
Wonderful. You duck too. You duck under 2 or 3 different swipes as Emma
Mhm.
does her best to lay her hands on you.
I stave her off with my walking stick.
Yeah, probably. You get out of the room and you come face to face way too quickly with Paul, who is returning like with his bag. Oh, excuse me. What's the problem? What's the problem?
I'm not quite sure, but she appears to be breaking.
Breaking. So he ducks his head back in the room.
Yeah, just look. Perhaps don't go in just yet.
Oh, what? He turns back.
Just
What's wrong?
Poke your head in and see what's happening, but don't go all the way in yet.
Oh, all right.
It's another strange thing in the catalog of strange things.
Huh. He looks in the room just slightly. He turns back to you. It looks like a girl. She should be fine.
Paul, do you have anything that could sedate her?
Well, certainly.
She attacked both of us, and her jaw opened, and she didn't have a tongue.
What? He looks in the room. She seems fine to me.
Can I look and see?
You can if you'd like to.
I don't like the way you said that, Mr. Diamond.
Maybe just call in. Emma!
I'll poke my head around the door.
Her back is turned. She's facing the window out of the location. You see her hand is still firmly gripped on the book and on the table. She's fine.
No, you didn't see her from the front.
Perhaps a syringe of something you could stab her in the back with, and that would
Oh, because
knock her out?
you have a strong throwing arm, don't you, Miss Bellinger? You could throw something and knock her out.
Possibly. I just thought if we did it medically, it'd be a little bit easier, but if we have any bludgeoning objects, I could try that as well.
Yes. Paul kneels down and takes out a hypodermic, a very large one. This is something I might use to help Mr. Fraser or Mr. Griffith get to sleep, it should work on her. I mean, she's fairly small, right?
Yes.
You're certain she's a problem.
Yes.
Yes, very much a problem.
Hand it to me, Paul.
He hands it to you. Do be careful with it.
Yes, I just point the pokey end at them, right?
Yes, and when it's in, push the plunger down.
I think I can handle that.
Oh, and don't hit him in major arteries.
I'll try not to.
Good luck.
Thank you, Paul.
You step in the room with the syringe, or are you just going to step around and throw it?
Oh no, I don't. I know how a syringe works. I gotta stab her with it.
You do.
Yeah, it's not
you
like
do
a dart.
Indeed. No.
So I have to get close enough to.
Mm-hmm. Paul leans around and looks in as you step in.
Ever trusting Paul.
The light has continued to dim in this room, and so now it is merely maybe 3 to 5 feet of ambient light around this single gas lamp that you had lit to read.
I will try to, with as much speed and agility as I can, dart in, get her with this needle. I would imagine if I can get her when her back's turned to me, I'll try for maybe a shoulder, arm area. But if she turns, then I'll be stabbing wherever I can stab.
You step in, and you will act before she does because you are far quicker.
Okay.
And why don't you go ahead and make a fighting brawl roll?
Okay. All right. Dice treat me well. 11 under 32.
That's hard success.
Yeah.
So you reach in and you go to stab her. She moves. She does not move to stop you from stabbing her.
Uh-oh.
She turns around just slightly enough to see the moment of impact, and you stab directly into her sternum with this hypodermic needle. And when you do, you come directly face to face with an entire body of skin and muscle. Emma is gone. What has been replaced is a somewhat gelatinous form of muscle, blood, and sinew. There are no eyes, there are no mouth, there are no ears. Her hair itself is merely some sort of macabre wig, which falls to the ground as soon as the plunger is pushed. Miss Bellinger will roll sanity again.
Yeah. Super sane. I rolled an 82.
Okay.
So that is a fail for me.
It is. And so I will take 6 sanity from you today. And you will now make an intelligence test.
So glad Maggie went in instead of Paul. We can't replace Paul.
Wow. Gosh.
That would be an 18 under 70.
So you push down on the plunger and you see this ball of this head, sort of just bloodied flesh. It's not even discernible as a human face any longer, as I said. The form that's below you seems to tremble a bit. And the only thing that you can think of is the note in the library, the whisper in that horrid dream outside the doctor's office. It's all happening again. And with Richard and the powder and the smells and the blood, your stress level breaks. And you become an unrelenting ball of rage.
That feels right.
So you'll be busy for, say, the next 9 rounds.
Okay.
Lady Elisabeth, Paul gasps.
Oh, what is it, Paul?
And now he has to make a sanity roll.
Oh dear. Poor Paul.
Oh, look at Paul. What a trooper.
Did he pass?
He did pass,
Oh.
yes.
Good job, Paul.
He goes, oh my God. And he turns around and steps back from the door. Don't go in there.
I did tell you there was something wrong with her.
You hear from inside the room a guttural growl, like a human growl. Like something in there is angry. And there is a great cry that goes out in the room. And you start hearing like the slick and wet slap of flesh on flesh. And this just bestial confrontation happening in there.
Paul? I don't suppose Mr. Fraser and Mr. Griffith are still in the building?
No, they went to the police station. Paul reaches out and tries to like close the door, just to reach in and like close the door. When he reaches in to try to close the door, his arm comes back with a bunch of like blood and muscle attached to it. Oh my God.
Miss Bellinger, perhaps you should leave the room. It doesn't seem safe to stay in the premises.
Maggie, you decide to leave the room.
Yep. I do?
Oh yeah, because the thing that's in here is now gone.
Oh.
You've ripped it apart.
Uh-oh.
And so you're going to leave the room somewhat under your own recognizance, under the sense that everything in front of you must be ripped apart.
Maggie will come out, slam the door behind her because she's just so pissed off at this point. And she'll grab Lady Elisabeth, like her shirt, like right around her collar. She'll try to grab Lady Elisabeth and just start berating her about Richard and it all being her fault. She got Richard into this, and she got Emma into this too. And look, now Emma's gone. She was taken by that monster. It's all her fault.
So what comes to grab you, Lady Elisabeth, is Miss Bellinger, covered head to toe in blood. She looks like she's been bathed in it. And when her red and sticky hand comes out to grab you and the associated beratement begins, it's rather shocking. It's not like sanity shocking, but it's like, holy crap.
I'm trying to hold her at walking stick length.
So I think it's going to be a pose brawl between the two of you.
Yeah. Crap.
The two characters with no brawl.
Because if that's the case, if she pokes me with her poking stick, I'd probably grab it and just shove her
I didn't
back.
say I was poking you. I was just using it to keep you away
if it's close
from me.
enough to poke me.
I got a success.
Good.
I did not.
Okay. So you're keeping her at bay at the moment with the stick. You're having to back up because obviously she's going to continue to press forward.
Mm-hmm.
Paul probably ducks out of the way, at least momentarily, because he doesn't want to get run over by a train called Maggie. But he is fishing into his doctor's bag.
Miss Bellinger, you have had quite a difficult day. You could perhaps use a bath.
I've had a difficult day. That girl is dead, and Richard is dust. Let's not make this about me. This is about you and all the people that you dragged down with you.
I had nothing to do with the professor, thank you very much. He was very eager to go on this whole trip to begin with, and he's the one with the device that he keeps fiddling around with in his own room, when none of us are around to help him out anyway. That seems to me it's more his issue, or perhaps the other professor who sent us on this little cat and mouse adventure. Emma, perhaps, yes.
Yes, her death is on you. And her blood is on my hands. I did that to protect you, and you're so ungrateful all the time.
What did you do exactly? Looking at all the blood.
As I'm berating her, I want to try to take her cane and beat her with it.
Okay, so that's another fighting brawl.
These are just the things I'm saying as I'm trying to beat the crap out of her.
Can I try to dodge that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a posed fighting brawl, right?
Oh,
so
okay.
you get to, as a new round, you're going to get to fight back or you to dodge, which I assume if you're going to try to keep the cane, it would be more of a dodge than a fighting brawl per se.
I succeeded on my dodge.
Okay.
I rolled an 18 under 32.
14 under 27.
Somebody beats somebody by a point.
But On
But
a
it's on
dodge
about-
versus a brawl, the dodge wins if it's the same level of success.
Yep. Same level of sex. Unless somebody nobody wants to spend luck. That would be cruel. Yeah, you know what?
Mm-hmm.
Miss Bellinger, the Hand of Fate's going to upgrade that success.
Okay, good.
Oh.
I mean, oh no.
So you take it away. You take the cane away from her.
Yeah.
Finally.
Mm-hmm.
And the only thing that your brain has the desire to do at this point is to use the head of that cane, that phoenix, to beat her to death.
Yep, it sure does.
So Paul stands up,
Mm-hmm.
and he is going to make a fighting brawl roll as well. Miss Bellinger, you can oppose that if you would like.
Yeah, I'll try to dodge. No, I won't. I'll fight back. I have a weapon.
You're right.
Fail.
All right, he succeeds. So you see him coming like from your left in the hallway here, which is now spray spattered with whatever you've had on you before.
Mm-hmm.
And he grabs your left arm directly and jabs something into your ribs. When he does, you hear him say, now, my child, calm down. And you feel the plunge go into you, and I want you to make a hard con roll.
Okay. Paul, you couldn't solve a children's puzzle. I did not pass. I rolled a 46 over 45.
Okay. You feel your legs start to go to jelly, and you feel his hand hold you up. And you're going to get one swing with the cane at disadvantage. And my question is, who are you swinging at?
Still Lady Elisabeth. This is all her fault.
Sure. So dodge roll, if you would, Lady Elisabeth, and then a disadvantaged melee roll from Miss Bellinger.
I failed.
I also failed. I rolled a 45 twice. So.
All right. So you swing and you duck your own cane. And as the steam kind of comes out of the ship, so to speak, you, at last memory, Miss Bellinger, see the floor. And it's getting very close. Gentlemen, you have arrived at the local police station. And, well, you have someone you desperately would like to question.
Well, Mr. Griffith, would you like to do the talking, or shall I?
I think you should do the talking, and I'm going to pass you this small contribution to our war efforts.
Very good. Well, let's see how the land lies. It may be that the local constabulary here is more willing to speak to a gentleman such as yourself, who has perhaps a little more experience in these matters than I do, but let us sally forth.
I doubt they speak American, sir.
The two of you step inside the police station here and are unsurprised at the rather dour nature of most of the police officers here. There's probably 4 or 5 around. They're just kind of sitting around, smoking and having a reasonable time. Now, to be clear, these men are just police officers. They don't appear to be black shirts entirely, but from what Mr. Fraser knows, and then probably also what Simon would know about the era, as far as being keeping up on the news, it might be a little hard to tell who is who in this building.
Discretion, and err on the side of caution. So I shall walk in. First thing I want to do when I walk in the door is just really try and get a read on who's here, what kind of level of authority the people here seem to have, and also their general demeanour and how they react to the two of us walking into the station.
Walking into the station, the thing that it seems anyway that they're most concerned about dealing with are several people here who are getting rather animated. It's really the strangest thing you've seen in Milan so far, besides the powdery professor, as there's a few just citizens in here who are just in uproar. There's maybe 5 or 6 of them, and they're shouting about something in Italian. It's hard to make out at least a little bit, but from the little Italian you may have picked up along the way, they're talking about someone dying. There's been a death.
Okay. Is there like a desk with a desk sergeant or something like that behind it?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Is he involved in this fracas, this argument?
No, he's giving them his best Mussolini impression. Really, the rabble, the basic impression, the basic foot officers, the beat cops, and what here are keeping them wrangled. But the desk sergeant has got his arms tightly around his chest. He's puffed himself up, all 5'7" of him, and he feels very important behind his desk and with his uniform on, it seems.
Well, I'm just going to kind of stand to one side. If his focus is on this group, I don't want to make any waves. I just want to be as kind of patient and polite as possible, certainly in the first instance. So I'm just going to sort of stand to one side in the room and just watch the situation kind of passively and wait to see if it resolves itself.
They do. They do seem, after a few minutes, to get some of these. They look like workers that are being pushed back out the door here, and they're being told, in effect, it seems, to go home. They push them out and continue to push them out, kind of in a hustle past you, and the desk sergeant here waves the two of you forward.
Buongiorno. Good afternoon. Do you speak English?
I do, he says in a relatively clear Italian tongue.
Splendid. I understand you're holding a gentleman by the name of Anthony DiCello in custody at present.
We are?
I have come to effect his release from custody.
Have you now? He kind of steps closer to the desk a little bit.
I assume there is some bail payment to be made in order to release him into my recognizance?
Well, let me just see here. He steps forward and props up a very large, wide black ledger book. He flips a few pages.
Splendid.
It seems here he was detained on some rather troubling social matters. Seems he was may have verbally assaulted a few officers.
Ah, yes, I understand there was some sort of a fracas and harsh words were spoken, and I must apologize for the behavior of the young gentleman. Rest assured that he shall be dealt with in the appropriate manner as befits his position and his disrespectful attitude towards your officers.
Well, I can tell you that the local men here have already had a chance to question him.
Ah, I see. Well, if there's nothing further that you require for the time being, then if you would just let me know what paperwork needs to be completed, of course I shall ensure that the young gentleman remains within the city limits in order that he may be recalled by yourself and your officers if possible. And might I add, what a fine job you are doing here, sir, keeping law and order in this city.
All right, sir. Let's give us a persuade roll then.
Oh, I was going for charm again.
Oh, well, that charm is pleasing to me as well.
Flattering him.
Yes.
Horrible little men.
This little imp.
Let's just see. That's a 38.
Mm-hmm.
My charm is 38.
Oh, spot on. He looks at the ledger and says, we require 2,500 lira to release him.
2,500 lira? That is some considerable sum. Might I ask why the amount is so high for this? This man's merely a driver. He is not of any great social significance.
He takes out a cigarette and lights it and says, it's, you understand that there are certain men that when we take them into custody, we have to be certain they are not a danger to the local population. If he is going to verbally assault officers, Mussolini's men, he is going to pay a heavy price.
There was no physical assault took place, I hope. I would understand such a high fee for if there was, but if it was merely words spoken. We have a saying where I come from: sticks and stones may break your bones, but words will never hurt me.
We have a saying here in Milan. You may have heard it already. Mussolini is always right.
Oh, I do not doubt it. I have no wish to go against the will of Mussolini. Quite the contrary. Well, you understand that it may take some time to gather that quantity of money together. Might I suggest, how would, shall we say, 1,800 lira cash right now between ourselves?
You see him look around a little bit. You can tell he's likely gauging who may have heard that.
I want to keep my voice sort of.
Oh, sure.
Low,
I had assumed that Fraser would be keeping his voice down when mentioning direct amounts.
Oh yeah.
He looks at you and says, "I'd be happy to accept it."
Splendid. Then we have an agreement.
So it's roughly about 72 pounds sterling, give or take.
I shall go into my wallet and I shall take out the money required. I shall hold it in my hand. I shall place my hand on the table, gently move my hand forward so he understands exactly what I'm doing, but there's no actual cash on display in the room.
He very covertly accepts the money in a well-worn method. It's fairly clear that your assessments of the local constabulary are right. And he gestures to a man at the end of the room and says, if you go to the man here, he gives you a piece of paper, bring this and tell Lorenzo there at the end of the room that you're here for him. He will take you to him.
Very good.
And if I might add, I would recommend having your associate or friend keep his voice down from now on.
Understood. I thank you for your time today, sir. And I shall proceed in the direction that he has motioned and go and speak to Lorenzo.
For his part, Lorenzo is a much taller, much wider man. He's probably one of the largest Italian men you've seen here. He seems to function sort of as the head of their lockup. And once he sees the slip of paper, either covertly or directly given to him, he asks you who you're here for and then tells you that he can escort you back.
Excellent. And so I shall tell him we are here for Anthony DiCello.
Mm-hmm.
And proceed as directed.
Back in this kind of grimy, low-lit lockup area, there's a young man who's sitting on a bench who seems to be twiddling his thumbs, for lack of a better term. And as Lorenzo gets closer, the young man stands up and adjusts his jacket. You can tell, too, that his shirt has been pulled in a couple of places, and it looks like he has a black eye.
Ah, DiCello.
Aye. He steps forward.
Come with me, if you would be so kind.
Absolutely, he says in English, but with a pretty significant Italian accent. Lorenzo opens the cell, makes sure that Anthony doesn't hit any bars on the way out.
Thank you. And I shall shake Lorenzo's hand, and there shall be a note cunningly palmed in my hand for him as an expression of my gratitude for his good service.
He takes it and smiles at you and says, "Have a nice night."
Oh, grazie, I believe you say. Come along now, DiCello. Now, what's all this I hear about you verbally assaulting members of the police force here?
Just a minute, Jim. We'll get out of here. We have to talk to you.
Let us leave, sir. Let us leave with this gentleman now. We can discuss after we leave the station.
Your Aunt Isabel has been worried.
Smile and at Lorenzo and nod.
Lorenzo smiles, and you guys exit a side exit of the station back out on the streets of Milan.
Yes, I'll be playing the whole berating him for being for
Sure.
offending and making a fuss until we.
He looks genuinely sheepish and humbled.
As soon as we get out, I'll say, Mr. Ducello, I must apologize for my harsh words earlier on. They were a necessary subterfuge to ensure that no suspicion was raised on the eyes of the constabulary. We are friends of your employer, Signorina Cavallaro.
Jim.
Please don't use my name in the presence of the police station. We can talk later when we have a quiet moment.
I'm just trying to get your attention. Mr. DiCello, let us head over to the other individual's house we were at inside and converse there.
Yes, quite.
I think that is safest, and we will get the most information and the most understanding from everybody then.
Yes, indeed. Let us make haste there.
Mm-hmm. The three of you walk to Miss Cavallero's home, where soon after arrival, Isabel notices Anthony, and the three of you are propelled inside by her. She asks a bunch of questions of Anthony, and he seems to try to settle her as best he can. And so he begins between both English and Italian explaining what happened. He explains that he arrived at the station a little late, and that Katerina had already evidently arrived. He asked the station manager who she had left with, and all he mentioned was that she got into a very nice Alfa Romeo. And this is when you hear from Isabel. She says, was it one of them made at the factory? Anthony says, oh, yes, clearly it's something made locally. She got into an Alfa Romeo, a very nice one. And that's what he was told. He went back out front to locate her or locate any evidence of her. And he was immediately accosted by 5 men who work for Mussolini. And they took his car. He has no idea where the car is. And when he wouldn't succumb to whatever that they wanted, they wouldn't explain what they wanted. They just wanted to bother him. They got into a verbal altercation, which eventually ended with him getting into a fight. And he lost a fight 5-1, which is not surprising. They dragged him off to jail. They wouldn't tell him what he was being arrested for and what he was originally charged with. And that was yesterday. And he's been sitting in that god-awful police station for a day.
Well, Anthony, we need to find out who would be driving an Alfa Romeo here in town. Can you help us with that, either you or Isabel?
Well, I mean, there are several patrons of the La Scala that might afford something like that. There is a factory here in town.
Who would the Signorina know that drives such a vehicle?
Well, Miss Cavallaro is very familiar with many patrons of the arts, you understand. They are familiar with her, and she has relationships, friendships with many of them here locally. They're what keep the theater going.
And you say there's a factory hereabouts?
Aye. Mm-hmm.
Well, adding on to that, are any of these individuals, these patrons, in bed with Mussolini?
Oh, it's hard to say. I'm certain many of them would have made certain compromises, perhaps during the war, but no more than especially after he took power. Mussolini was bound to come for their money.
Yeah, but what I'm saying here is you came out and you were accosted immediately and your car seized. So obviously this is someone who is probably kissing Mussolini's ass.
And it's possible. Maybe it's just if it is perhaps a patron of the theater who wanted to, I don't know, maybe perhaps wanted something specific from Miss Cavallaro. Perhaps they would have paid the black shirts. Many of these men have no true loyalty other than to who is in power or who has the most money.
The reason we ask is because I'm not sure if you're aware of the fate that befell Signorina Cavallero's sister whilst in Paris.
No, I'm aware of Nina's death.
And that was related to the fascist movement. So my fear is, and that of Mr. Griffith here as well, that that has had repercussions on Miss Cavallaro herself. I don't know if her family has some sort of trouble, has had trouble with the fascists.
No, not in all of our times. They were staunch opposers of Mussolini for certain, but they were not vocal about it. They were smart enough not to be vocal.
So perhaps it is possible that this... Well, I'm going to use the word kidnapping, because it seems clear to me that that's what's happened. That this kidnapping is not, in fact, related to the fascist movement at all. Perhaps there's something else at play here.
As I told you, it could be an admirer who doesn't know any limits.
She has had them in the past. There was one man, he's gone now, but there was an older man who I'm sad to say I had to be very direct with.
Are you sure he's gone?
I'm absolutely sure.
Yes, but indeed, perhaps some wealthy admirer wishes her to stay where he can have her sing whenever he wishes, like a bird in a gilded cage, as they say.
I have an idea. Now, I know Ms. Isabel here doesn't speak very good English, but you do, Anthony. She is the housekeeper here, so she would have received any mail, correct?
I believe so.
Would there be anything in the mail that might indicate, messages prior to her return, stuff like that might indicate someone expressing an overdue interest in her?
Anthony asks her, and Isabel, after a moment or two, shakes her head. She says that there has been just nothing of the sort like that. Letters and...
No letters, no flowers, boxes of chocolates and that sort of thing?
No, nothing undue. So, I won't ask how, what brought you here. I assume you have a prior relationship or a friendship with Miss Cavallaro.
Merely an admirer myself. Admirer of her voice and her talent. And yes, we were lucky enough to meet her whilst in Paris, and we were somewhat involved in the situation with her poor sister.
We did her a favor back then, yes. And she told us to look her up here, and of course she goes missing. So we, you could say we have a vested interest in finding her.
Of course. Perhaps it is late, and I must tell you that police station has rotten appointments. Perhaps tomorrow we can set out, and I can perhaps educate you a bit on how Milan works, and we can speak with some people.
That would be excellent. If I could ask you one question then, sir. So you are offering to be our guide and our interpreter tomorrow?
I'm willing to help. You've you've gotten me out of that awful place, and I owe you more than that. So it seems to me that I am in your debt. If you return in the morning, I will do whatever I can to help you track her down. She's my patron as well, and so I must find out what happened to her. I must locate her.
Excellent. Until tomorrow, then. And be safe. Keep your eyes peeled. We don't want you to run into any bother with these young rapscallions.
Will you be staying here then, Anthony?
Oh, yes.
Oh, excellent.
Would you like one of us to remain with you as company for the night?
Oh, no, that won't be necessary. Isabel is, he points to her and says to you in English, she grew up in the countryside. She's very able.
Do you have a phone?
No, but Isabel has a rifle.
Well, I was just going to suggest we could give you our number if you needed to reach us.
Oh, yes. No, there's Miss Cavallaro removed the phone when it became too troublesome.
Is it okay to carry rifles around alone?
No.
Well, dang.
Well, if you should require us and you have access to a public telephone or something of the like, we are staying at the hotel.
Very well. I shall reach you at the hotel, but for now, I will need to rest.
Well, we will not take up any more of your time. It is good to see you out of the clutches of those people.
Yes.
I won't call them police because I would not grace them with such a name, but we shall see you in the morning then.
Indeed. Thank you again, sir.
Well, you're more than welcome. Sleep well. And you too, Miss Isabel.
Yeah, she nods at you and says thank you in English. That's about all she can really muster, really, in English. She probably actually thanks you in French for that matter, because she knows that you speak French. The two of you return to the hotel. As you get up to the third floor, you see that Paul is working the hallway with a mop.
Good Lord, what are you about, man? They have staff for this, you know.
Are you cleaning up the professor or something?
No, gentlemen, we've had an incident. You can see that the mop bucket, which is here, is a bit ruddy brown.
And all the colour drains from Mr. Fraser's face. Is everyone all right?
Everyone is of sound body.
What happened?
It seems that the reading that was done by Lady Elisabeth's book, there was a young lady downstairs who was able to read German, and at least from what I can ascertain, the young lady did not take very well to it and became altered. I have no idea.
Her ladyship did not give her one of those heathen monstrosities to read, did she?
I don't know the exact details, sir, but I do know that Miss Bellinger became very angry with Lady Elisabeth at some point and attacked her.
Good Lord. Miss Bellinger attacked her ladyship?
She's resting now, thanks to some medicinal support, but I believe it may have just been something in the moment, you know?
Was her ladyship injured?
No, sir. She is resting as best she can in her quarters after it's been cleaned thoroughly.
Lady E is resting. Where's the young lady from the downstairs desk?
Well, she's not with us anymore, sir.
Has the downstairs desk been informed of this?
No, sir. Why would they be?
Oh, shit.
We thought it best.
If you'll excuse me, gentlemen, I shall return momentarily. I must check on her ladyship.
Sure. All right.
So I'll go and knock on the door of Lady Elisabeth gently, just in case she's sleeping.
Yes, who is it?
It's Mr. Fraser, your ladyship. Are you all right? I heard there was something of a commotion earlier.
There was a bit of an altercation. I'm sure it's fine now.
Are you all right in yourself, though, your ladyship?
I open the door and I'm standing there with my freshly cleaned walking stick, holding it very, very tightly.
Mr. Fraser is quite pale in the face. Are you hurt, your ladyship? I heard that Miss Bellinger attacked you.
Yes, she was in quite a bit of distress. But thanks to Paul, everything is quite all right. Miss Bellinger is resting. Yes, I think we'll be able to get over this, perhaps.
What exactly happened? What brought her to that course of action, to attack you? I mean, she's a spirited young woman, but I mean that really seems quite beyond the pale.
I do believe she was in a bit of an over-emotional state between the professor's disappearance and all the dust everywhere, and then something strange was happening with one of the hotel staff. And there was lots of blood everywhere. It would send anyone into a bit of a tizzy, but I believe she was just perhaps a bit over-emotional at the time anyway.
What blood? Whose blood?
Oh, did I not say? Emma, she worked for the hotel.
She was injured?
She's gone.
Where has she gone?
I'm not sure.
Is she well? Has she been taken to the hospital?
Well, no.
I don't understand you, Your Ladyship. What do you mean she's gone? This is her blood? What?
I'm not quite sure what happened, to be quite honest. She was acting very strangely and looked like she had no tongue, and yes, it was quite odd. And then Miss Bellinger used one of Paul's tranquilizers to, well, we were hoping to just calm her down, and then the door shut, and then Miss Bellinger came out covered in blood, and said that Emma was gone, and then proceeded to verbally attack me. Again, she's a bit overexcited.
I leave for one moment. Well, Your Ladyship, I'll go and attend to matters. As long as you're not hurt, and as long as you're well enough yourself, then
Oh no,
that's the important thing.
I know how to control my emotions, unlike our American friend.
Well, yes, indeed, they do live on a knife edge. I'll have to say, Mr. Griffith is somewhat similar himself.
Yes, well, perhaps she's doing better now. I don't know, but I'm quite fine, I assure you.
Very well. Well, I shall leave you to your peace and quiet, Your Ladyship, and I'll go and see what needs to be done along the hallway.
Paul has done a splendid job cleaning up the hallway. He is, well, evidently at some point he's very good at cleaning up blood. Maybe it's because of his profession. Who knows?
Good God, you're a doctor, man, not a housemaid.
As you've said before, sir, needs must, yes? I'm just trying to keep it from getting into the papers or having anybody come up here and find out what's happened.
I think you and I will have to have a sit down and a good talk about exactly what went on here earlier on.
I don't doubt. But for now, I'm pretty exhausted, to be honest.
Well, it's getting late. I think perhaps a bite to eat and then a good night's sleep will do us all the power of good.
I surely hope so. He goes not to his own room, but he goes to Maggie's room. It's been a little while yet, Maggie, but you begin to come out of whatever happened. It feels like somebody put like a sack of potatoes in your head. And so you're a bit drowsy. You hear Paul's voice in your ear, and you're very thirsty.
Paul?
Yes, Miss Bellinger, I'm here. Are you feeling okay?
Oh my gosh. What happened?
Well, we need to talk about that. You see that he's not too terribly far from the bed. He's probably a reasonable distance from the bed, but in his hand he has a glass of water.
Oh, Paul. Thank you. I'm so thirsty.
I thought you might be.
Paul, did you drug me?
Well, I don't like to think of it like that. I'd like to think of it like I kept you from hurting someone.
Kept me from hurting someone? Oh, well, I guess I did say some sharp words to Lady Elisabeth, but I'm sure she's tough.
I think you may have had an episode. In what we would call them in Charrington is a psychotic episode. And I'm very concerned about what happened today.
Well, so am I, Paul. You didn't see what I saw in that room? Yes, I am very concerned about what happened today as well.
Well, the others are back now from the police station. I'm not sure what's happened there, but I'm hoping that you'll take my advice and get some additional rest tonight, and perhaps it will do you well.
Yes, I should probably speak to Lady Elisabeth when I have the chance as well.
I'm certain the two of you will have much to discuss. He stands up.
Well, thank you for looking after me, Paul.
It's my pleasure. He straightens his coat, and he steps out the door. And it isn't probably more than a few gulps of water and a soft door click afterwards that you are desperate for sleep again. And so I'm going to draw this session to a close with all of you nicely and quietly tucked into bed. Thank you so much for joining us. We look forward very much to seeing you and letting you hear us next week when we have something very special in mind. Have a wonderful evening or day wherever you are, and we shall hear from you soon.